What's going on? Are you enjoying your Wednesday?
It is Wednesday. I'm having an interesting Wednesday. I got up this morning. I made myself a breakfast sandwich,
Uh-huh.
and then I couldn't find it. So after looking for 20 minutes, I just went to the office,
Yeah.
and I got a text message that I put it back in the refrigerator.
Oh, okay. I thought like for a second you were like, I get back to the office, I reached in my pocket for the phone and then put a breakfast sandwich
That
towards
would have been
my
great, right? But I mean, I looked all over the house for 20 minutes. I mean, I microwaved it. Why would I put it back in the
Yeah,
refrigerator?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cliche to do stuff like that, but like I've done like the car keys in the fridge thing where like, cause as like a child, when you watch that on TV or you see your parents do it, you're like, why are they so bad at being an adult? Like, I'm not going to do that when I grow up. And then like, unfortunately, it just slowly sneaks up on you.
It gets worse, when you have kids and people that like depend on you. It just gets worse.
Yeah, because I'd love to have kids years from now, but it's
Yeah,
like sometimes I get really excited. And I'm like I'll have my own little buddy just to hang out with, and they'll like look up to me and just be excited that I'm there. And then at the same time, I'm just like, but that's also a life, and like
yes.
I have to be focused on it all the time.
I'm not sure how mine's still alive. you know she's at the point where she is supposedly self-sufficient.
Yeah. Is she 18? Is she out of the
Yes,
house?
yes, she's at Belmont right now.
That's right. Yeah, congratulations. Is she interested in like because that's more of like I know there's like film classes, and isn't there like musical classes as well, like for instruments and singing and stuff? Where is she?
She is audio engineering. She
Oh,
wants
okay.
to do live events and theater.
Oof, that stuff's hard, but
Yeah,
that's
I go,
awesome.
oh,
Good for her.
yeah, I go, oh, so you're picking the place that's been closed for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so excited for you.
Well, have you ever done a podcast before?
I did one right after the day after my second COVID shot.
Oof.
Yeah, I basically crawled to the cat. I had plans of getting up and showering and like being ready to
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
And you're
no.
just like, no, no. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I was on it where I was like releasing an episode every week, and then like the last 2 months, I've just fallen off. I was gonna take a month off, and then it ended up being 2 months. So like you're my first episode
Woo.
back in action. So I'm excited for everyone to hear this conversation. I like kind of in a fuzzy way know how you got started, but I really want to ask you like how did you come to being an agent? Like were you an actress? Because like you usually hear, oh, like they're an actress or an actor, and then they fell into this thing and they really love that even more. Is that like similar to your experience?
Most of that is similar to my experience. I actually I attended a school that didn't have drama,
Okay,
and
what school was that?
uh, Easel Harding.
Okay,
And then I went to the lovely University of Alabama where I got to take my first theater class.
awesome.
And yeah, it was pretty much over after that.
Hmm.
Loved acting, loved being on stage. And when I left Alabama and I came back to Belmont, where my daughter Lovely is today,
Full circle.
full
Yeah.
circle, I got my marketing degree, and my mom pushed for me to make sure that I went ahead and did the whole college thing and got a degree,
Mhm.
not in theater, but so I got a marketing degree, and my plan was to move to New York. I had representation already set up there,
Mhm.
but I'd already also started working at the agency. So to get out of some of my marketing classes, I used internships at Advantage to not have to attend those classes.
That's awesome. That sounds like I was homeschooled throughout high school, and sometimes it'd be like, oh, like we're gonna go to a museum or like go to an event for fun. My mom would be like, yeah, it's a credit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same thing.
Yeah.
So I I graduate from Belmont, yay
Mhm.
me. And I'm like moving
Congratulations.
to New York. I got the representation set up, and my
Mhm.
mom's like, well, what are you going to do for a job? Where are you going to live? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to go to New York and figure that out. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Isn't that what you do?
My life is gonna be like the TV show Friends. Like I'll figure it out.
Exactly. So yeah. But she kept nagging.
Mhm.
And finally I was like, okay, fine, fine. So I get all my little I's dotted, my T's crossed, everything that would make my mom happy
Yeah.
for me to move. And they're still going to rep me, even though it's like a year and a half later.
Uh-huh.
And I found out I was pregnant. And so after a little bit of consideration, I was like, okay, maybe, just maybe,
Mhm.
trying to be an actress in New York as a single parent is not going to be the best
Yeah, it's not gonna be
in life.
easy. Yeah.
I stayed and decided instead to continue working at Advantage and helping others achieve those lovely dreams and desires, and have had a great time, good and bad. I've sent when I was before I bought the agency, it was a lot more modeling.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Has it
I
always
were
been located in Nashville?
It was in Franklin for a while,
Okay.
but still same area, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I placed models all over the world: Milan, Greece, Korea, China, Australia, New York, Chicago, LA, everywhere.
Mhm.
And it was great and it was fun and good and bad stories. And but we were a SAG after franchised agency, and when I bought it, I separated it from the modeling school and
Mhm.
moved it back into Nashville, and focused a lot more on the actors because a lot less drama.
Really?
Oh yes.
Is there more drama with models than
Oh
with
yes.
actors?
Horribly, yes. There's so much jealousy from boyfriends and girlfriends, and no support and understanding. And most of them have, not all, there's some really good ones, but
Of course.
a lot of them have very low self-esteem, even though, I mean,
Mhm.
they're being paid to be pretty.
Yeah.
Uh, but and I get it, because like one of my girls, great, great figure, perfect model.
Mhm.
And she was in Japan being called a cow. So,
I'm
I
not
mean,
laughing at her. I'm just
no,
laughing
right.
at just how crazy that is. That's do you feel like that's like changed
No,
over time? No, it's still the same, you think?
it's the same. It's the same. Modeling is an intriguing world. I mean, we got all of these great things going on where they are offering jobs and opportunities for plus size models and
Mhm.
curvier models and all of that, which is fine. But
Mhm.
you got your high fashion designers that are still using the exact same mannequins they were using when they started design, and you still have to fit that mannequin.
Yeah, that's I think I've only ever done like one modeling job ever, and I believe it was something that you got me to work on. It was for some like booklet or something, like on the cover.
Okay.
And
See, that's
I
completely different.
yeah, and I remember going in that day. It was cool because like I didn't have to like memorize any lines. Not that I don't like doing that, but it was like I can just come in and like just kind of be myself. And I walked in, and there's like all these like people who like are models. And then like it kind of said to me, I'm like, oh, I'm like the one that is supposed to look different, like on the books or like or
The
on the
real
poster
person.
stuff like that. I'm just like, and for a while I was like, how do I feel about this? And I was like, you know what, like I'm working, it's fine. So I don't mind being that different one.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that.
So
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
it's all good. Who knows what I was about to say?
I was gonna say I can't we came across each other. I think either in my junior or senior year of high school, so it's been a while. It's crazy. That just kind of hit me how much time has flown. But I remember I came in and I did a monologue for you. I think it was one from Romeo and Juliet. And then you said it was, blah blah blah. We signed together, and we've been working together ever since. do you still kind of like do that monologue where you bring people in and have them do monologues? And like, why do you do that? Because some agents like they just sign you based off your demo reel, or not even that, just based off your headshot. So like, what is your process when it comes to like signing the people that you want to work with?
I still have people do a monologue sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I'll just look at their demo and then we'll talk. Um, I rarely ever will sign directly off a picture.
That's yeah, that's probably that's a wise choice, I would say.
I think it is. I think it is. Uh, a lot of my process, even though I make people do like a monologue or a scene read or whatever, it's based off of learning their personality,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of part of it. Putting people on the spot is one of the things, because when you go into an audition, you go in, well, when you used to go in for an audition,
Yeah.
you might have your script and then the director is like, okay, yeah, that was great. Now, do it this way.
Hmm.
And even though you've practiced it X, all of a sudden you've got to switch it and do it Y. And so it's kind of the same thing.
Gotcha. And that's something that like it took me a while to kind of adjust to what you're talking about when a director tells you that. Because like you said, you work on it and you bring it in, and you're kind of like, sometimes it's more than just the director in there, the casting director, their assistant, maybe the writer or the producers. And so you're kind of bearing yourself. And so sometimes, or at first, it kind of felt like they were shooting me down and I just completely screwed up. But in fact, it's like the opposite. They're like, oh, like he or she's like really good. Like, let's see if they can like take a little adjustment here and there. It took me a long time to mature and not be like, well, they're dumb. This is the way I've done it, and this is the way it should be. Like,
Well, in fairness, you're not the only one, and I have some people who have yet to adjust. They're a lot older.
Yeah, hey, that's okay. They'll eventually get there.
Hmm.
So I wanted, this is something I don't even think I've asked you it actually, but I've wanted to for such a long time. Uh, how many calls or like meetings do you have with people where like a mom or dad comes in and is essentially like, okay, like when can you make my child famous, and how fast can you do that?
Funny enough, I vet well enough before they ever come through the door that I rarely ever get that.
Yeah.
However, the kid themselves might ask me that often.
Yes.
um, yeah, I would definitely say that it happens. I've only had a couple of times where it's been the parent, and I'm
Okay.
like, I only remember one where the actual parents were planning on living off their kids' income.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, yeah, no. Mm-mm.
How had they even like had the kid even ever acted before?
No.
Wow.
And they weren't willing to actually get them in classes.
So, so
Right.
I don't
Right.
understand that. Did they like plan it? They're like, okay, if they book this show, we'll have this. We'll be able to go to Cabo for this long.
I don't know. I like the mental capability, I didn't have it at all. Like
Yeah.
I was not understanding. I was just like, first off, you're not in a market. And this would have been maybe even 10, 11 years ago. So we're going way back. So the
Oh
market was
wow.
like even so much smaller. We didn't have Atlanta to the point where it is right now.
Yeah.
And they weren't willing to invest anything, but still wanted to be able to get them out there and live off of their kid.
Well, I was a teacher's assistant through acting at this one studio, and then now I've kind of taught teaching for by myself for like a year or two now. And a lot of people come in thinking that acting or even writing or directing is like a get rich quick scheme. They're like, okay, like I'm like, how fast can you like I've had adults, it's funny when kids ask it, like, oh, like when can I be in a movie? When can I be famous? But like I've had like adults look me in the eyes, whether parents or they're there for themselves and legitimately asking me like, when will I be on like a Netflix show or this like movie? How come I'm not in a Marvel movie? Or they're getting frustrated that they've been taking classes for a month, and they're like, well, I don't have an agent yet. I don't have this yet. It's just like, wow, like people really
Yes.
don't do their homework.
No, because they've heard the stories of, this person was found in the bar, this person was,
Yes, yeah.
that person that was found in a bar probably also in most cases has 2 to 3 years of training behind them, and they just happen to meet the right person on the right day. It's
I
not like they walked in never having acted before and booked the lead.
exactly like I read Matthew McConaughey's new book, Green Lights, and kind of the story about him is that before he met Richard Link. This is the story. He met Richard Linklater, the director of Dazed and Confused, at a bar, and Richard Linklater was like, "Yeah, you're going to be in my movie." When in fact he explains it in the book that he was at a bar, he bumped in, I believe, to one of the casting directors of the film or like a producer. They said, "Hey, like you'd be great for this small part. Here's your sides, do your homework." And he just really worked hard on it and figured out who this character was and then went in and then booked it. But people want to like cut out that other stuff because it's not Hollywood enough.
Doesn't work for the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been so many things of that nature that I've heard over the years. And I'm just like, you might want to do a little bit more research.
Do
Just a
you,
little.
having said, I'm sure there's many podcasts where people have talked about this. Do you think people will ever look at acting as like like not a normal job, but something that they can strive toward? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think that if you go back 4,000 years ago and you compare it to now, we're much further along. I hope
yes,
it doesn't take another 4,000 years to get there, but I think we've been moving in the right direction. Like people actually, most people understand there are classes involved. I don't think they get it to the point where it's like being a dancer or a horseback rider or any of these things. It requires continual education.
yeah,
Um,
and like, and
no
I'm
matter
not,
what your level.
yeah, and I'm not like when we're talking about these people, I just have to admit, like when before I submitted to like you and so many other agents just begging for people to respond back. Like there was a time when I was like in middle school and high school, I was taking classes, but I was like waiting for someone to like call me, and it wasn't till thank God for my awesome mom who just randomly just like walked up to me one day and she was just like, "So what are you doing? Like, what's your plan?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't really have a plan." She was like, "Is that a good idea?" And I'm just like, that's that's not a great idea. And I submitted to you and then some other ones, and no one else responded but you. And that's just like how it is. Like, but
Yes.
and it's been wonderful ever since.
I wish everybody said that, but it's all good.
Well, everyone's different, Misty.
That is true. Everyone is different. And that's part of the reason for like the whole when I have you do the monologue and we talk and I find out a
Yes.
little bit about it's whether or not we can connect because you have to connect with the talent. And if it's not working, nobody should be in a bad relationship. I use your story a lot
Oh, thank you.
on 12 the 12 Mighty Orphan story a lot because part of my agreement is you have to give me a 30-day notice if like you're leaving. I
Mhm.
go, now that's so that we can wrap everything up, but that's not always the case
Yeah.
because you know you auditioned like back in February of 2019 for
Yeah.
the role of Chicken. It was
Woo.
supposed to shoot that summer, and then they give me a call in that August, I think it was August or September. And they're
Yeah.
like, hey, so we should have called you a few months ago. I'm like, months? Okay. Okay. So can you simply be in Dallas for a callback tomorrow? And I'm like, well, he's been busy in New Orleans and he is a little closer living in Huntsville than, in Nashville. So let me just give him a call, see what's up. I'll get back with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, did I even submit you on this?
Yeah, I remember being like, I have no idea. I'm like gonna have to go check because usually like I pride myself in like remembering certain things. And during that, I was just like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. But when I went back and looked at it, I got super excited because I remember it was just like one of those that stuck out in time. I was like, man, this is like really cool, really well written. but there wasn't a whole lot of information about it yet. So when I saw it, I was like, yes.
Yeah, I was like, I remember the auditions, and I remember the name because it was his name's Chicken. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
you know. But I was like, but did I submit him? But hey, it worked out.
Yes, yes, it did work out. And the movie's now out on Blu-ray for those who are listening that haven't
And
seen it
streaming,
yet. It's yes, and streaming. You
streaming.
can rent it pretty much everywhere, and it's a really fun, great movie. And I had a excellent experience on that. So thank you again for just hustling for me.
Hey, thanks for heading out to Dallas, not even knowing where the callback was yet.
Yeah, I have so many people think because I at the time I was working at a grocery store and my manager, like bless his heart, like was already understaffed at it was. And I was
He's
like,
probably
hey,
more understaffed now.
yes, exactly. And I was like, hey, like, can I go do this thing? And because it was like just a callback. It wasn't like I booked it or anything yet. And I was like, if I do this, will I lose my job? And he was like, no, you got to go do this thing. And like, it'll be all good if it not ends up going anywhere. But thankfully it did. And my dad too, who drove me there while I could read the script and read the book.
Twice.
Yes, yeah. I just going over as fast as I can. But that's just an amazing experience. It brought great stories for me to be able to share and talk about.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I wanted to ask, speak on the topic of a movie. I wanted to ask. I don't think we've ever talked about like what your favorite movies are, like at all. That's like one of my favorite questions to ask people. Do you have like a couple that come to your mind?
Earlier today I was interviewing with a girl, and we were talking about actors, and all my favorite actors, except, well, other than the ones I rep, of course.
Yes, thank you.
But
My ego needed that. Thank you.
yes, all my favorite actors are dead.
That yeah. Half of mine would probably be as would be like some of my favorite directors. I understand. Who are those actors?
Well, I'm like so many.
Mhm.
I've always been a huge fan of James Dean,
Yes,
and then
of
of
course.
course Luke Perry, because he looked so much like James Dean.
Yeah.
And
I never thought about that before. You're absolutely right.
yes, and I was a big River Phoenix fan when I was
Mhm.
younger.
Of course.
So
Another
uh,
James Dean-esque. You have a type, I see.
I do have a type. My favorite actor that is still living would be Pierce Bronson.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
I my first crush, I think I was 6 years old.
What movie was it?
Oh, it was when he was doing the TV show. I think it was called Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we're going way back.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I think my mind, when I think of him, obviously it goes to Bond, and then it goes to him in Miss Doubtfire, which he's really funny in. He's really underrated in that. He's a really underrated actor,
He
but he
is.
still works all the time.
I know. He just did another film.
Yeah, and or for Hulu or something. He plays
Uh,
like an evil doctor or something. That's one of the things I've seen him in. He could have 20 things out right now.
Although
But
the girl I was interviewing with goes, well, his son's been doing work, and I go, yeah, no,
no, I had
the
no
son
idea.
doesn't count. The son doesn't count.
That's like I didn't know Clint Eastwood even had a son until I can't remember when I saw him in. I think his name's Scott Eastwood.
Oh,
And
I didn't know.
yeah, I know. I saw him in something, or at least heard about him. And I was like, I didn't know that. That's gotta be like daunting to be Clint Eastwood's or like Pierce Brosnan's son.
Right? Or what about like being Johnny Depp's children?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Especially to like be interested in the same thing that they do.
Right.
Like at one hand, it's like cool, I have like all the resources to kind of skip a couple steps. But at the same time, you're always going to be brought up with them, and they'll always
Right.
refer to you, no matter how many great movies you'll make, you'll always be referred to as their child.
Well, it's like Charlie Sheen and
Yeah,
Leo Estevez, and they're compared to Martin Sheen.
yeah, Martin Sheen all the time. And like he like working with him, I like whenever he's brought up, I always get a brag on him. He's just like the nicest guy ever. Like he loves, like he talked about his kids always, like as if they were like still like little. That's how like he would talk about him. It was so sweet to listen to. And I actually got to meet Emilio because he came on set one day and he was so nice. And he kind of had this like mysterious aura about him, which was really cool. Kind of like James, that's what people loved about James Dean so much. He had that like just that thing about him, just very quiet but interesting. Do you have like a favorite movie from his three?
Um, well, of course, Rebel Without a Cause, but
That's mine. Yeah.
of course, it's Rebel
Yeah.
Without a Cause. I mean, don't get me wrong, the one he did with Elizabeth Taylor, I mean, it was good and it was a much smaller role, but
Yeah, and very long.
yes.
Giant. Yeah, it's called Giant for it's like almost 4 hours. But yeah, Rebel Without a Cause is that movie's something special. He's just so great in that. And every time like I think of him, it's kind of you have that sadness because he only got to do 3 movies.
Right.
But he
Oh,
did
and then but he also did a driving safety video right before he died.
oh no. I also read, I don't know if this is true, but he got a ticket before he died too. I don't know if that could be one of those fake rumors, but I've read that before where he got a ticket right before he died, or like a warning, and then he just kept
Maybe a warning. I don't remember
speeding.
ticket.
But I didn't know he had done like a lot of like guest work on television before he really became a huge movie star. So I actually have like I found it, I think actually while I was in Texas, that in Texas they had, or in Fort Worth they had this really cool like just a movie store, which you like in Huntsville and most places I go to, there's just like not that anymore. And if they do have movies there, it's like, they're B movies that you've never heard of before. But they had
That's
at
gonna be
this
good.
really cool like retro movie store, they had like all of James Dean's like episodes from all these different TV shows he did for like $1. And I still have it. I need to just sit down one day and just flick through them, just because yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites too. And then why you said Luke Perry, is there a specific, he did more
Oh,
TV work, right?
yeah. I mean, loved him. I had not as a teenager.
Yeah.
As a teenager, I had James Dean all over my room with Luke Perry posters intermixed, in high school during 90210 was out then.
Yes.
So a huge fan of his from there.
Are there any
of course, I watched him in Riverdale.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, on the CW. Because he played someone's father. I'm not really like 100%
Yeah,
familiar with
he
the show,
played
but
he played Archie's dad.
okay. And then I want to say the last thing I saw him in was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which he was really great in. Just that brief, it was more of a cameo, but it was great to see him.
Well, he owned a farm here in Tennessee.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you ever drive by?
I did not. Yeah, that's one good thing about being from Nashville. You're so used to being around country music stars that,
Yeah.
at least you know how to not. I guess that's the best way, how to not.
Yeah.
You don't go screaming and sign this, or, it's just like, hey, did you see that person over there? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Is there like a certain person, if you did see in person, where you would kind of freak out a little bit compared to maybe some other people?
I don't think so.
Really?
Really, yeah, I don't think so. I've always tried to think about that because I have been asked that many
Mhm.
times, and like nobody comes to mind.
I think I would probably, if I were to meet probably like my top 3, I would probably just freeze up or like have a heart attack if I saw them in person, which I want to work with all 3 of them. So I'm going to have to
You have
overcome
to work
this.
through that.
It's probably, I'd love to meet Christian Bale. That he just seems like such an intimidating figure though. Like I would,
He played Newsies. He was like the
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a long spanning career. Like he started really young and he's always been excellent too. And then Christopher Nolan is like one of my favorite directors that's still alive that I would just love to meet, just kind of pick his brain. But like in like a not like in a non-professional setting, I would freak out. But in a professional setting, I would have time to like prepare almost.
Right.
Because it's
Exactly.
like, oh, like I know I'm working with this person like a couple weeks out. I can kind of like, slap myself in the face a couple times a day if I needed. But if I just like bumped into him in a cafe, I
Right.
would just be like, how what? Like, just go into like a freak out mode. On the subject of actors, are there any that are alive that like are working today that you really admire, or like if they're doing something you have to go see?
Well, Pierce Bronson. See, because he's
Yes.
still alive, so I have him. Johnny Depp is an almost
Yes.
I'd like to see him in a few more things that are non so character driven. I love the pirates, all of that stuff, but
Yeah.
and doing all the Tim Burton films and all of
Mhm.
that, but seeing some non Tim Burton films would be good again.
Yes, I agree.
Um,
Do you have a
uh,
favorite role from Depp?
well, I mean, I get him all the way back to 21st Jump Street, so
Yeah.
and I really did like him back then. I actually like him less now.
No, I understand. Yeah.
So, but I would still go see his movies. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One that always like sticks out to me is of course Captain Jack Sparrow, but like
Right.
him and Ed Wood, like I don't know. He's just magical in that film for me. Just like I think it's just like that character. He loves movies so much, but like he makes them and they're just terrible. But he's like, oh, like this is my masterpiece. Like I think that character and he plays it to perfection. But sorry to interrupt.
No,
What
that's okay. When my daughter was younger, she had three favorite films. No, I'm sorry, four. Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and then the two Charlie and the Chocolate Factories, the old and the new.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And so
He's
I watched a lot of Johnny Depp in that too.
Yeah,
Over.
and in that movie, he is very much doing his character.
Yes.
Very yeah. He's great at it though. I love that, and Gene Wilder is amazing in that the original as well.
Yes. She would like put one in, it would be over. She'd put the other one in, she'd put it back in. I was like, by the end of the weekend, I was like, I can't take anymore.
Yeah, my oldest sister Caitlin, she would do that with The Wizard of Oz, like just that movie, just over and over and over again. I think it's an amazing film, but like I don't want to watch it again for like another 20 years still.
I have watched it a ton when I was younger. I have it on VHS, so I watched a lot when I was younger.
Yeah, it was, and she's the oldest, so she was like, "Oh, like we're just gonna do what I want to do," and
Well,
me being,
exactly.
her little brother was like, "Okay," like that and The Lion King, and that's whatever I talk about my favorite Disney films. A lot of the times, I kind of just like try to get that one off just because I've seen it so many times. Even though both of these films I'm talking about are amazing,
Phenomenal
their own
films.
right.
Yes, yes. Yes, she did a lot of Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland as well. And of course, the interesting thing about that is that Wendy and Alice were the same character.
Yes, yeah. Actually, David Lowery, or Lowery, well, I'm pretty sure it's Lowry,
You're right.
is the one who did the what did he do? Pete's Dragon, and then he just came out with The Green Knight. Is doing like a I guess reboot remake of the Peter Pan.
Uh,
And as a child, in kindergarten class, when you write like this is my hero and this is what I want to do when I grew up. I found that a couple of years ago in my parents' garage, and it said I thought it was going to say like act, because like for the longest time I've always wanted to be an actor, and it said when I grow up I want to be, and it said Peter Pan, and I was like, oh, I need to see like
you wanting to be an actor, see?
yeah, it's kind of the same thing, but I specifically put Peter Pan. I don't even remember really like writing that or really wanting to be Peter Pan, but I was like, you know what? And it was funny because and then I remembered that when I saw a breakdown for they were casting, is it Little Feather? The one that likes Peter in the
Red,
something like that. Yeah, they were casting it, and I'd like just IMDb Pro, just try to find as much info as possible, and they're unfortunately doing like like Peter's like 13 in that movie, and I was like, I'm 20 something years old, I can't do it. But
Can't play the 13-year-old anymore.
yeah, I know it's about. I can still maybe play high schoolers, but I think that's a little out of my range. Are there any?
During 90210, I mean, what, some of the characters were 32 years old when they started it.
Yeah,
Like
what?
students.
The
Original 90210.
yeah, the trailer for the Spider-Man something home
Oh yes,
just
I saw
dropped,
that the other
and
day.
so me and my wife watched it, and we're like, oh, we should watch like the old Tobey Maguire ones. And so we watched them. And it is so funny watching like that first one, because all of the high schoolers are like you just said, in their late 20s to early 30s. And like they go to I think like they go to some museum where he gets bit. But the teacher that they cast looks younger than all of them. Like it was very odd. And as a child, I never thought about that.
I'm gonna have to go back and check that out. I didn't notice it.
It's pretty. There's a big gap, and they have Joe Mangi, however you say his last name, and he plays like the bully, and he's like, you're like, he's not 16, 17, 18. There's no way, you know.
Yeah, anytime I watch TV shows now, especially when there's a high school scene, because when I'm like thinking of high school students, I think of actual high school students.
Yes.
And I try to find people older that like look like high school students, but that's not what they ever, they get people who look like they should be graduating college.
Yes.
Students. I'm like, high school students do not have a body like that.
Yes. And you know, one of the reasons why is because it's easier to hire 18 plus, because then you don't have to have guardians and stuff there. Yes. But I think also the reason is because legit high schoolers are really mean. Like, so I worked on this show called Your Honor for Showtime, and they actually had like the for the people walking through the hallways, they actually got the drama club there to be extras, and it was a really cool experience for them. But they're actual high schoolers, and the entire time they were like making fun of me and Hunter. They were like, because we get into a little bit of a scuffle, and they were talking about which one could actually beat up who in real life. And I think they settled on that I would get beat up because I had really nice sneakers on, and I was redheaded. So there's that factor. And they're just, you know, like they're just talking among themselves. And if we were to say something, they wouldn't shy away. They just have like no, you know. Right.
Yeah.
But
my daughter has no filter. I completely understand, but she's never had a filter.
Okay.
She has never had a filter. She's a little better than she used to be, but not really.
People like that just like make me laugh. I feel like that sort of comedy now is really, especially since like The Office has kind of come back into fruition of it being this huge popular thing, where like that kind of things people shouldn't say, and you know, comedy is really huge right now, and that always gets me. Speaking of TV, are there any like TV shows that you're binge watching right now?
I'm watching, I just finished watching Panic on Amazon.
Okay.
And
I'm pretty sure I've heard of that.
Well, it's shot in Texas, but I read the book a few years back, and so I wanted to compare, and of course it was way different.
Yeah.
I will give the fact that the person who wrote the book did write the screenplay for the TV show. Yeah. So it wasn't as bad, but like the original setting was in New York.
Oh.
And the TV show was in Texas.
It's not like they shot it in Texas trying to make it look like New York. They were just like, no, it's now Texas.
It's just now Texas. And then there's a little bit of love interest change that kind of happens, and then she changed the last names of some of the people.
Gotcha.
But a lot of this stuff was still the same, so it was kind of weird, but good. It was pretty good. They have a season 2 coming. So
nice. Aaron and I have been at dinner time. We've been putting on Monk on in the background, which is just like a great, you know, class, just like easy to watch and follow. And then before we go to sleep, well, her one of her favorite shows is Downton Abbey. Have you ever seen that one?
I watched 2 episodes and I just couldn't get into it.
No, and it's like it is really slow, but yet methodical at the same way. I'm like, it took me a while to really enjoy it. Now I'm like, and really invested in all these characters, and I even sometimes forget like they do such a great job of like making you feel like everything is in this time period, and like that's something I would love to, I know like 12 Mighty Orphans was a period piece, but I would love to do like one where I just get to wear nice
Bring
things.
it back.
Yeah, wear nice things and be rich instead of being barefoot in half my scenes.
That's fair.
But
That's
yeah, I'll
fair.
still do that over a regular job, a regular job.
It's okay. You know how to work with eggs, so it'll work out fine.
Earlier you said like we didn't have Atlanta like 10 or so years ago. Do you feel, because Atlanta like is still booming and like
Yeah.
things are shooting in Nashville, and I've even seen things shooting a lot in Kentucky and the
Mhm.
Carolinas and stuff. Do you feel like this is like, because some people I know that from LA are like, it's like a phase. Like, do you feel like it's a phase, or do you
Pretty
feel like
long
maybe they're in
phase.
denial? Yeah, I know.
It's definitely not a phase.
Yeah.
It's so much easier for LA people to work here because of being a right to work state. They
Mhm.
don't have to deal with nearly as many laws and fines as they do out in California.
Mhm.
So I think that that helps. And as more and more directors are coming out here, they're finding it easier and easier to deal with it. But at the same time, I think there's the a little bit of persona going on that if you're shooting in LA, you're a real actor, but if you're in the Southeast, yeah, not really.
Yeah.
So we're not quite there yet, but we're definitely making huge strides.
Yeah, and like obviously someone who lives in the Southeast wants to like push for it, but
Right.
I just feel like just keep making movies down here. I feel like even Alabama, things are shot in Birmingham, here and there, and I did one movie in Mobile, uh, where they pretended it was New Orleans the entire time, which is pretty easy to do. But
Yeah.
like even Huntsville is just like a really unique, cool place, and like
Right.
there's been some independent productions, and a Bollywood movie was shot here a couple years ago, that was pretty big for Huntsville just because we have the Space and Rocket Center and stuff. But yeah, I want people to make it easier for me to act. I know that's
That's
like so
fair.
selfish, but
Fair.
like I love going to Atlanta and New Orleans. Like I think they're just so cool, unique places. I'm really glad that it's turned out that way.
I am too.
Um, and like even like the Carolinas and stuff I said, in Kentucky and Mississippi has a lot of stuff shooting there all the
They've been
time, which is
having a
really
lot of
cool.
films shoot in Mississippi. My last film booking before COVID was it was a horror film in Kentucky or in
Nice.
Mississippi.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you said it's not a phase. That reassures me. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when these LA people think it's like, oh well, they're kind of in denial, but at the same time you're like, wait, do they know something that I don't know?
But they keep moving here.
Yeah, exactly. And
They keep
especially
moving
Texas
here.
right now. A bunch of people from LA have moved to Texas.
Well, out of all the different California license plates I see, I I'll be happy to send them back to Texas.
Yeah, well, we've already run past 45 minutes. Thank you so much, Misty, for coming on and humoring me and talking to
It
me
was
about,
fun.
yeah.
Hopefully, there's like enough information that you can edit in here instead of us just talking.
No, I think that's what I enjoy most is like, I listen to a lot of podcasts where I find myself like almost wanting to respond about what they're talking about. I'm just like, that's what makes a good podcast. I feel like when people are just like engaged in talking about something that like they're both interested in. At least I hope you're interested in what we've talked about today.
I hope, considering it's my livelihood, I'll go with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, touche. Good point. Good point.